Welcome back, everyone. We're going deep today into something you wouldn't really think about with New York City.
Okay.
A drought.
A drought.
Yeah. The Big Apple just put out its first drought warning in over 20 years.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy when you think about how much water this city usually has.
Yeah.
We've got this really interesting CNBC article here. It lays it all out for us. Have you, by the way, noticed anything different in your day-to-day life because of this?
It's a bit of a surprise. We usually think of droughts as happening in other places, not, big cities like New York.
Right. So this article says we're in the longest rainless streak in New York City history.
Mm-hmm.
That's recorded history. That's a long way from the usual rainfall we get here. So I'm curious, how low are the reservoir levels?
Well, they're sitting at 60.1% capacity. That number might not seem like a big deal, but usually this time of year, they're closer to 79%. So that's a really big drop in water levels, which is concerning because at this rate, the city could face mandatory restrictions, in the next few months, really impacting daily life.
Wow, that's a big difference. So the city has issued a drought warning, but I'm not really sure what that means for everyone living here. What are we supposed to be doing differently?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
New York actually uses a 3-tier system for droughts: watch, warning, and emergency.
Okay.
So right now we're at the warning stage, which basically means they're asking people to voluntarily conserve water.
Gotcha.
Things like shorter showers, making sure you fix any leaky faucets, just being mindful of how much water you're using.
Right.
But if things don't get better, we could be looking at mandatory restrictions and even higher water bills.
Oh, wow. So it's like a yellow flag right now.
Yeah.
Urging everyone to kind of be cautious. But what actually triggers those different stages? And what kind of mandatory restrictions could we be facing if we hit emergency level?
The triggers for each stage are based on a couple of things. Primarily, the reservoir levels, rainfall amounts, and stream flow measurements. So they're essentially watching how much water is coming in, how much is going out, and how much we have in reserve.
Right.
As for the emergency stage restrictions, those could get pretty serious. We could see limits on outdoor water use, non-essential businesses like car washes, those might be impacted.
Wow.
And restaurants might be asked to only serve water on request.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that definitely puts things into perspective. Now, another thing that stood out to me in this article was the fact that they actually paused a huge repair project on the Delaware Aqueduct because of the drought.
You're talking about that $2 billion project.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Delaware Aqueduct is a crucial part of New York City's water system. It brings in about half the city's water supply all the way from the Catskill Mountains. So they decided to put those repairs on hold to maximize, how much water is flowing into the city during this drought.
Wow, that really shows you how serious they're taking this. But I imagine there must be some downsides to delaying a project that big.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Halting the repairs help us increase water flow now, but it could create, problems and delays later. And the longer they wait to fix those issues, the worse they could get.
Right, so it's a tough situation. And it seems like this drought is affecting more than just New York City, too. This article mentions that Governor Hochul has declared a statewide drought watch. 15 counties, including New York City, at a warning level.
Exactly. This drought is hitting a big part of the state.
Yeah.
A lot of counties are dealing with depleted groundwater and low stream flows, which is, concerning for their water resources.
So this lack of rain isn't just impacting the city's water supply.
Right.
It's also creating kind of like a tinderbox effect across the region, leading to a surge in brush fires.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
These dry conditions are like a recipe for wildfires. We've seen a crazy number of brush fires across the Northeast this year, including a massive one near the New York-New Jersey border. It burned over 5,300 acres.
That's wild, 5,300 acres. And it's not just limited to the suburbs either. There have been brush fires even within New York City.
It's true. We've seen a really unusual number of fires this month, including one in Brooklyn's Prospect Park.
Wow, a brush fire in Prospect Park, that's definitely not something you see every day.
Yeah.
So how is the city handling this unexpected challenge?
Well, they've actually taken a very proactive approach.
Yeah?
They've formed New York City's first ever brush fire task force to deal with it head on.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating. What exactly does this task force do?
So they're focusing on a couple things. First, they're working to, actively fight any fires that break out.
Yeah.
But they're also putting a lot of effort into prevention and education.
Yeah.
So they're going into communities, offering tips on how to reduce fire hazards around homes and parks.
Okay.
And really just emphasizing how important it is to be extra cautious during these dry conditions.
It sounds like they're really trying to get ahead of the problem.
They are. It's a good reminder that even a city like New York that's so well prepared has to adapt to new challenges, especially, with these changing weather patterns.
Speaking of adapting, let's bring it back to the average New Yorker. I was talking to a friend who lives in Brooklyn, and she said her building sent out a notice asking residents to, be mindful of their water use.
Yeah.
Even suggesting things like taking shorter showers and only running the dishwasher when it's full.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of thing that most people are experiencing now?
Absolutely. A lot of buildings and businesses are doing similar things.
Right.
Even simple actions like fixing leaky faucets can make a huge difference over time. The article mentioned that a single dripping faucet can waste gallons of water every day. And when you think about, millions of households, it really adds up.
Yeah, you're right. It's easy to overlook those little things. But beyond individual efforts, what are some ways this drought is impacting daily life in the city?
Well, businesses are being asked to step up too.
Oh.
For example, restaurants are being encouraged to only serve water if someone asks for it.
Oh, interesting.
And there are restrictions on non-essential water use, like washing sidewalks.
I hadn't even thought about that. So it's not just about our personal habits at home. It's also affecting how businesses are run. Have you noticed any changes in your own routine because of the drought warning?
Oh, definitely. I'm much more aware of my water usage now.
Yeah.
Shorter showers, turning off the tap when I brush my teeth, all those things add up. It's amazing how quickly it becomes a habit.
Yeah, it's all about forming those mindful habits, right?
Exactly.
I know we mentioned this before, but the article also talked about the possibility of water rates increasing if this drought continues, which is a real economic impact that could affect everyone in the city.
Right. Higher water rates wouldn't just hit households, but businesses too.
Yeah.
Think about places like restaurants, laundromats, car washes. They use a lot of water. Those increased costs could really hurt them. It's kind of a ripple effect that could spread throughout the economy.
It really shows how environmental issues can have much wider economic consequences. We often think of drought just in terms of water scarcity.
Yeah.
But the impact goes way beyond that. It affects people's jobs and businesses too.
Exactly. And it's not even just about the immediate economic effects. There's long-term stuff too. Remember those delayed repairs on the Delaware Aqueduct?
Right.
That could mean higher costs and construction delays in the future.
Right. It's like one thing leads to another. Decisions made now, because of the drought, could have consequences that last way longer than this situation. But in a way, isn't this forcing the city to rethink its water system?
Absolutely. It's a real wake-up call. It's making everyone think about how to keep a city this big supplied with water, especially as we deal with climate change.
It's almost like they're being pushed to be more creative. And speaking of creative, I was really interested by that brush fire task force.
Yeah.
It shows that they're willing to try new things and take on these new challenges. It's not just about putting out fires, is it?
No, it's about changing people's behavior and creating a culture of fire prevention.
Okay.
They're teaching people about fire safety, which is something we don't really think about in New York City. Brush fires aren't that common here.
So they're taking this big multi-pronged approach to deal with the drought's impact on a bunch of different levels. From saving water to stopping fires, it's a big effort. This whole situation really highlights how tough the city is and its ability to change with the times. This drought is a problem for sure, but it's also a chance to learn and become even more resilient in the future.
Well said. It makes you think, what does this all mean for the average person? Not just in New York City, but everywhere. What lessons can we take from this?
It's a big question, and one we should all be thinking about.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things here is we kind of take water for granted, especially in cities where it just seems like it's there.
Yeah, it's a good point. We often think of droughts as something that happens somewhere else.
Right.
But New York City shows that it can happen anywhere, even places with a lot of water.
And this drought watch, covering 15 counties, shows how connected we all are.
Right.
Not just in the city, but in a whole region.
Exactly.
Water in one place affects other places.
It reminds us we're all part of a larger system.
Yeah.
What we do has consequences.
So what does this all mean for the average person listening? What can they do to be more mindful about water?
Well, it starts with those simple things we talked about.
Okay.
Shorter showers, fixing leaks, only running the dishwasher when it's full. Those little things can really make a difference.
It's true. Small actions can have a big impact. But it's not just about what we do at home, right? What about the things we buy and how much water it takes to make them?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
The choices we make as consumers matter. For example, choosing plants for our gardens that don't need a lot of water, or eating less meat because, meat production uses a lot of water.
It's all about making informed choices.
Right.
Understanding the impact we have. And it goes beyond individual effort, too.
Definitely.
We need to advocate for policies that promote water conservation.
I completely agree. We need to support things that improve water systems, promote efficient technology, and encourage responsible water use in agriculture and in industry. It's a group effort. Individual action, community involvement, and policy changes. And it's not just about dealing with this drought. It's about a more sustainable future for everyone.
Well said. And it seems like there might be some relief coming. This article mentioned rain is in the forecast.
Oh, good.
Later this week, which could be a welcome change for everyone.
That is good news. But remember, a few days of rain might not be enough to fix everything.
Right.
We can't just wait for Mother Nature to solve the problem.
Exactly. We have to take responsibility for how we use water.
This drought in New York City is a wake-up call, reminding us that water is precious.
It's a reminder that even in a city that seems to have it all, we're all affected by nature, and what we do matters.
It's a good lesson to remember as we face a future with more climate change and environmental problems.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we leave you with this thought. What can you do today to save water and contribute to a better future? Even small changes can make a difference.
Every drop counts.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay hydrated.